Good evening, everyone. Hi there, it's Beth Caldwell, and I'm here tonight to share with you one of my favorite workshops that I offer, and it's called Wise Women's Strategies for Success. I've been teaching this workshop for probably 8, 9, 10 years now. And it is one of the ones that I'm most requested to do whenever I teach at a women's conference. It is one that I've done dozens of times. It's one that I get many, many questions about. And it's the only workshop I think that I've never done as a teleclass or a webinar. And this is something that I've wanted to offer for a long time. And let me tell you a story about this Wise Women workshop. Oh my gosh, very, very early in my business, probably 2004, 2005, one of my clients had purchased a success workshop from a very, very well-respected, highly success-driven coach from the West Coast. And I was trying to think today if I could remember the name of this program that my client bought. But I do remember that she paid over $2,500 for this success program. And she bought it, and it was back before we could do MP3s and instant video like we do today. And she had bought this program, and it was full of DVDs and CDs that you listen to. And she bought the package, spent close to $2,500. It was like $2,200 for it, and had never opened the package. So she hired me to do some branding work for her, some strategy work for her to help her to get her coaching business to become successful. And she said, Beth, I think that all of the answers to my problems are in this box, and I don't have time to listen to it. So will you please listen to these CDs? And she paid me to listen to them and then to implement the strategies that I learned. And I took an entire weekend to listen to this coaching program. And by the third hour, I thought, how am I going to get through this? And who would ever pay this much money for this program that was so fundamental and so basic? It was full of strategies that I think that I learned in Girl Scouts, success strategies. And I got so frustrated for my client who had paid for this very expensive coaching program. And I thought, you know what? If I were to do a success program, now back then, understand, I was a marketing consultant. I helped people write brochures and write bios for their website and write press releases. I had no idea that one day I would be an author and a speaker and a newspaper magazine columnist. But I remember thinking, if I were to create a success program for women, this is what I would include in it. And I wrote down the 12 things that I'm going to tell you about today. And I kept it in my journal. And a few years later, after I had written my first book, I was asked to speak at a women's conference, and I was asked what topics could I speak on. And I didn't have any topics to speak on except for my book. And so I remembered this entry in my journal, and I went back and I looked through it, and I called it Smart Women's Strategies for Success, or the Smart Woman's Guide to Success, something like that. And that's the class that I've given over and over and over again for the past 10 or 11 years. And as I said, it's one of my most popular. And I wanted to make this class as a recording to give as a free gift for my website. But there was something that was bothering me about the word smart, because smart women, which we all want to be smart women, and I believe that every one of you listening or watching tonight is a smart woman. I just didn't want to think that somehow if you didn't embrace every one of these tactics, that you might not be smart, because that's just not true. And so I went and I looked at my thesaurus, and I thought, what's another word for smart? And it was coming up with things like intelligent, and wasn't working. And I thought, what's the word I'm looking for? And I actually shut off the computer, went outside to be in the sunshine a little bit. And as always, whenever I leave my computer, that's when my brilliant ideas come to me, when I'm not looking at technology. And that was Wise Women. Tonight, I'm going to give you the strategies of wise women, women who have made mistakes and who know better now, and who want to be a woman of wisdom, and who have mastered some of the mistakes of youth, yet they're still young. So that's tonight's workshop, Wise Women's Strategies for Success. And I have 12 strategies to share with you. Now, you don't need to implement or embrace every single one of these strategies, but hopefully one or two or a few of them will really touch your heart and resonate with where you are right now. So let's jump in. Now, if you are not driving your car, I'd love for you to grab a pen and a piece of paper. Hopefully your journal, if your journal is nearby, because these are going to be some thoughts that you'll want to chew on for a little while. And perhaps you'll get some ideas and some revelations and hopefully some inspiration. So the very first strategy I have for you tonight, number one, wise women understand their purpose. Now, you don't have to have just one purpose in your life, and your purpose does not need to be your career. When I work on stages now and I talk about your life's purpose, oftentimes I will have a long line of women afterwards asking me these questions, but how do you really know what your purpose is? And I've forgotten what life was like when I was working in a social work job, doing something that I wanted to change the world, but they weren't letting me change the world. And it was very frustrating, and I felt so unfulfilled and so unhappy that many days I did not want to get out of bed and go to my job. And I begin to remember when I see women line up to ask me these questions about your purpose, I don't know what my purpose is. See, we all know what our purpose is, or we did know at one time what our purpose was or was supposed to be. Sometimes we get so busy in our lives doing what we think we're supposed to do that we get torn away from our purpose. And that's when we begin to become very unfulfilled and very unhappy. Now, here's what I want you to know about your purpose. You don't have just one purpose in life. You have many. And also, your life's purpose does not need to be your life's work. It does not need to be your career. You don't need to get paid for your purpose. If you're fortunate enough to get paid for your purpose, that's wonderful. But if not, that's okay. You know, I get to work with Steve Harvey a couple of times a year through his Success Institute. And one of the things that he tells the audience is over and over again, it's one of my favorite quotes. Your job is what you're paid for. Your calling is what you're made for. So I call it a purpose. He calls it a calling. Your job is what you're paid for. Your calling is what you're made for. So my strategy number one for you is to understand your purpose, to embrace it. Do what you were meant to do in this life, or you will feel frustrated and unfulfilled. Now, if you don't know what your purpose is, I can tell you one thing. I guarantee you that you definitely know what your purpose is not. You know what makes you unhappy. You know what you don't want to be doing with your time. So you either begin to reconnect with your purpose by thinking about or journaling or writing down what gives you joy and what you would love to spend your time doing. And if you're at such a frustrating point in your life that you can't even think of what that is, go ahead and start writing down what you don't want to do with your life. And that will help you to clear away some of those negative thoughts and begin to embrace and remember what it is that you were meant to do. And ask for spiritual guidance on that, and try and remember what it is that you used to love to do and that you would do today, even if you weren't getting paid for it. So number one is to remember your purpose. Strategy number two for wise women ask for what they want. Okay? Now, you might think I'm talking about getting paid what you're worth because I've been known to talk about that topic, but for right now, I'm talking about something a little bit different. When I mean ask for what you want, what I'm saying here is when somebody says, is this okay with you? And it's not okay with you, but you say, yeah, that's okay, or all right, that will be fine. That is not asking for what you want. That is settling for something that you don't want. And a wise woman, when somebody comes to them, usually it's a significant other, or maybe it's a coworker, or maybe it's a boss. And they bring to you something on the table that is not what you were expecting, and you're disappointed. And instead of saying, I'm disappointed, or that's not what I was expecting, many times what most of us women will do, will swallow our disappointment and accept whatever it is that's being offered to us. Now, I think that we are somehow programmed to do this as young girls because we want everybody to like us, and we want to get along with everybody, and we want to be very accommodating, and we want to be kind, okay? But let's say I'm going to try to think of something that just recently, here's a good one. Well, that's not really a good one for right now. That's a really good story for later. I'll remember it. But let's just say that it's something very simple about what you want to do for your Friday night date night. So you have plans that you want to get up and go out and go dancing, or get dressed up and go to a club, or go to a fundraiser, and your sweetheart wants to do something different. Maybe they want to go golfing with their buddies, or maybe they want to go to maybe they want to work later. Maybe they want to go to a conference. Not what you were hoping for. And when the person says that to you, and they say to you, is that okay with you, honey? And you say, that's okay, then they believe you. Now, I'm not saying that you need to stomp your feet and saying, well, that's our date night and we shouldn't do that. You could say, well, I'm really disappointed, but I think that's a good idea that you go, and I can see why you'd like to go to that event. When can we reschedule our date night? I was really looking forward to it. Do you see how you're not being mean or rude or impatient or unkind by simply saying what you want? You don't have to say everything is okay when everything's not okay. It's a big problem that I think women do. Women say things are okay when things really aren't okay. So try to catch yourself when you're doing that. Catch yourself saying that things are fine or things are okay when they're not okay. And this is most likely, if this is something that you do, because this is something I did, this is a habit that you've had for a very, very long time, and it is not something that's going to change instantly. So notice when you're saying things are okay and they're not really okay. And then think about it, and how will you handle that next time? Okay, how will you handle that next time? Because we're work in progress here. We're always getting better and always improving. So wise women ask for what they want. My next strategy for you, number 3, wise women think big. Wise women understand that when you embrace your purpose, you are gifted with big visions. And wise women are not afraid of big visions. They embrace them. And in the work that I do with women, I just love it when a woman who comes to me who thinks big and doesn't have any hesitation with really taking on a big picture. And I'll tell you something, that's definitely a gift of mine. I can think big. And I didn't know that this was a gift. It's definitely a gift that I have. And it's something that most people don't really get for a long time in their life. It takes a lot of practice with faith and belief, and sort of the practice of taking jumps and taking leaps. But I'll tell you what, I love to have this gift because I can think big for other people. I can create very big visions and see very big visions for my clients and my friends and my family, maybe when they don't see it for themselves. And there's nothing that I think is more juicy and more exciting than somebody who is thinking big and somebody who's ready to play big and ready to embrace their purpose and take on their big vision. Because you see, I believe that we all have a gift. I believe that we all have a purpose. And I believe that when we all embrace that purpose, we make really big changes, significant impact in the world. So believe me, there's nothing that excites me more than thinking big. But here's the problem. I think that we're trained by our parents and our teachers and the people who took care of us when we were young, the people who it was their job to keep us safe. I think that what happened was, in order to keep us safe, they didn't let us think big because they didn't want us to be hurt or disappointed. And that's where we learned that behavior. It came out of a kind place. It came out of a loving place. But now we don't think big. So I want to challenge you today and tomorrow and this week and this month. When you have an idea, ask yourself, am I thinking big enough? Am I thinking big enough? Okay, number 4, here's a little bit of a different twist now. Wise women don't deal with drama. And wise women don't manipulate people or trick people into getting what they want because they don't have to. Wise women don't deal with drama. Now, if something that it is said that doesn't make sense or something is said that hurts someone else's feelings, a wise woman will clarify calmly. A very wise woman will calmly clarify before going on the offense or before attacking or before reacting. Because a wise woman understands that most people really do mean well, that most people are really doing the best that they can. And sometimes good people say things that they don't mean or that they don't intend. And also, she understands a very big communication issue that we have, particularly in relationships. And I often see this at work, where somebody says something and the other person hears a completely different message. A wise woman can really discern upon that and tackle a conflict really before it becomes a conflict. So let me give you an example. An example of he said, she heard, or she said, he heard. And that would be, here's an example. This is a personal example. This is my dad. I have been doing a lot of conflict resolution in small companies. And my mom and dad have both been struggling with some health issues lately. And so a lot of times if I finish up before 5 o'clock, I will drive out to my parents to have a cup of tea or stop in for a visit and tell my dad about what I did at work today and the problems that I tackled. And he gets the biggest kick out of the advice that I give people, particularly attorneys or accountants or some physicians that I work with, the type of people that people my parents' age really, really respect and hold sort of in a high honor space. And my dad gets the biggest kick out of the fact that I'm pretty much a tell it like it is, and here's what the problem is, and here's what you need to do. That's why people hire me, because I just cut right to the chase and I'm pretty realistic about what I see. And I don't believe that we should tiptoe around our problems, because that really cuts into our profits. And I don't like it. I own a business. I don't like it when problems are cutting into my profits. So I like to deal with them right away. So my dad gets a really big kick out of the problems that I solve and when I tell him about them. And he was saying this thing for about 3 weeks. He kept on just like slapping his leg and saying, I can't believe they pay you for that. I just cannot believe that somebody pays you to do that. And at first I thought, well, he must think, apparently, you see, I wasn't being wise. I was assuming what he meant. And I thought, well, he must meant that I don't have a degree in this field, or he must think that, because I've never worked in this line of work, that I'm not qualified for it. But he seems really proud of me. So I started to begin to tell myself a story of what my dad thought of me. And so I started to tell myself the story that my dad thought that I was charging too much money. He couldn't believe people were paying me that. And then about the 4th time he said it, and I was starting to get really stung and get a little bit choked up. And I said, Dad, what do you mean? Like, do you think they're paying me too much money? And he said, oh my gosh, no, I think it's great what you charge them. And I think that they're getting a great deal. And I think it's really wonderful. As he started giving me all this praise. And here for a couple of weeks, I had been telling myself a different story. But what my dad was trying to say, and what he found so funny, was that in my family life, I don't like conflict at all. If somebody bothers me and my family, if my brother or sister or mom or dad say something that hurts my feelings, I say nothing. Yet somehow I have the power to go and talk to strangers and just blurt out exactly what I'm thinking. And what he was saying was that you, the one person who avoids conflict more than anybody that I know, are getting paid to deal with conflict. And isn't that something? You see, so this is a classic example of he said, she heard. We do this all the time. Men do it too. She said, I don't think we should go to that. And he heard, oh, she doesn't think, she thinks I'm going to embarrass her. We put these stories into our head all the time. So wise women understand that people are doing the best that they can. They usually don't mean to offend and attack. And that what we really need to do is clarify before attacking. Okay, so think about that. I hope that gives you some ideas. And I bet some of you are thinking, wait, did I hear that the wrong way? I hope you are, because I think it's really, really interesting when you get that concept. And you can say to somebody, before a conflict becomes a conflict, you can say, hold on a second. This is what I meant to say. Is that what you heard? Or you can say, I just heard you say this. Is that what you meant? Powerful, very powerful. So let me go backwards and go over the points that we've made so far. Number one, wise women understand and embrace their purpose. Number two, wise women ask for what they want. Number three, wise women think big. And number four, wise women don't deal with drama. All right, let's set upon our next four. Number five, wise women learn to set boundaries and stick to them. This is whether you're dealing with your children or your coworkers. Boundaries are important because we teach people how to treat us. And when we respect ourselves and we have clear boundaries, other people will respect us also. Now, you have to do this without apology, and you have to be authentic and honor what is important to you. You don't set a boundary because somebody told you that it was a good idea to set a boundary, or because you read it in a magazine, or because you heard a class from me even. It has to be something that's important to you. The point about being a wise woman is to create a life that you want to live, not what you think you should live or what somebody else thinks you should want to live. But you want to set boundaries so that you can live the life that you want to live without catering to other people who aren't really important to you. Let me explain what I mean. For me, this is something that I struggled with for years in saying yes to every invitation that I was given. And particularly for volunteering. Okay, when I started my own home-based business many, many years ago, after working an 8-to-5 job and being out of the house for 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, I had a lot more time than I was used to. And I started a home-based business, but I had so much flexibility. So I started getting involved in activities at the kids' school and in our community and in our church. And pretty soon, I had a very, very busy schedule of volunteer work along with my own business, along with the 2 children that I was raising by myself because I'm divorced. And so I had to been saying yes to everything because I had to say no for so long. So I was a little bit over enthusiastic. And then when I realized that things had to change and I began to say no to things, some people got a little pushy with me. And, oh, come on, Beth, we really need you to be on this committee. I mean, without you on this committee, how are we ever going to raise enough money? You know, you're so good and you know these people. Then I would sort of cater into them, okay? I taught them that if they fussed a little bit, I would go ahead and cave in. And it took me a really, really, really long time to get very, very good at saying no. In fact, I recorded an entire video just about saying no and how I learned to say no. So I'll put a link up for you to watch that. So as I got a little bit more wise and mature in my life and career, and I began to learn how to set boundaries and say no to things that were not going to help me to get to my goals, People then, once I trained them to get used to the idea of what I was doing and what my mission was, people stopped asking me to do things. And instead, they started saying to me, Beth, we have a volunteer position. Do you know somebody who would be good at it? Because they didn't say, can you do this? Will you do it? You're the only person in the world that can do it. I began to model in my own life that we have to bring other people up in the leadership ranks. We can't just have one leader. Everybody has to be a leader. Everybody has to fulfill a purpose and a mission. We're all in this together. And that really started with me learning how to set boundaries and stick to them. I struggled with this one for a really long time. I understood the whole concept of setting boundaries, but sticking to them was really tough for me. And I struggled with it more in my personal life than I did in my professional life. And it's something that I think a lot of women deal with. And so just like everything else in your life, when you don't do it the way you want to, you learn from it. And the next time you get an opportunity, you do a little bit better. Okay? And remember, you create the life that you want to live, not what other people want for you. Number 6, wise women are not afraid to take action. You know, I get to meet a lot of women in the work that I do, and a lot of women that have dreams and ideas and goals. And women come to me and they tell me they want to start a business, or they want to write a book, or they want to write a movie, or they want to be in a movie. They have really big dreams in their heart. And many of these women have had these dreams for many, many years. And they've been afraid to take action. They've waiting until everything is perfect, until they have more money or longer hair, or they weigh less, or they are a different size or a different shape, or they're married, or they're divorced, or they have kids, or they don't have kids. They're always waiting for the right time to take action. The right time is now. Wise women realize that without action, your dream is just a dream. And a wise woman really understands and has learned that the only cure for fear is action. The only cure for fear is action. So when you have an idea, you go right into action. You turn that idea into a plan. You turn that plan into a schedule, you get that schedule on your calendar, and you get moving without hesitation. Wise women are not afraid to take action. I hope some of you are getting wiser, and you're going to get into some action right now. Number 7, wise women do not have a plan B. How does that feel to you? You know, I've never had a plan B. This is one that I've not struggled with. You know, we all have different areas that we struggle with, and some of us have areas that we excel in. I personally have never created a plan B. In fact, I remember when a book came out on this topic, and I didn't even know what a plan B was. I've always been 100% committed to whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever my mission is at the time. If I have an idea that I want to leverage, to put into movement, I believe in it 100,000%. I've never begun a project with a plan B because failure has never been an option for me. In fact, I don't even think of failure as a possibility. I tell this story a lot in my workshops. Very recently, within the past year, I went to a workshop retreat for women. And I was in this workshop retreat, and nobody knew me. And I just was there with my journal, sitting in the side, just taking it all in. It was an oceanside resort. And I was just sort of filling my soul and spirit with all these things I was learning. I was having a great weekend. Fantastic event. And I went to this one class, and the facilitator asked us to get out our journals and to begin to write. And she wanted us to make a list of all the failures we had had in our lives. Well, it wasn't what I was expecting. You know, I'm super positive. And, but okay, I can do this, right? So I start to think and get ready to write. By the way, I'm a writer. This should be easy for me, right? And I noticed the women around me are frantically writing their lists. just writing and writing and writing. And I got a little bit thrown off because I thought, oh my goodness, I must be in the wrong class. I couldn't even think of one thing to write on my list of failures. And I began, isn't this silly? I began to feel like I did not fit in this group, like maybe I should leave. I actually started feeling physically uncomfortable because I couldn't think of one thing to write down on this list. All right, so now I got myself into a panic, and I thought, I surely have failed at something in my life. And I thought, oh, of course, my marriage, that was, a disaster. So let me write down marriage. Okay, well, is there anything else I can think about that I could put down? And I'm still looking at these women who are ranting, and finally time is up and I have one thing on my list. And I'm thinking, oh, please don't call on me. She didn't have to call on me because what she said was, who would like to share their failures? And I'm thinking, whose idea was this class, right? Well, how did I wind up in here? But she says, who would like to share their failures? And the women all over the room are raising their hands. And I'm thinking, what is this, right? So now the women begin to read off of their list all the failures that they've had in their lives. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I've done that. And I've done that. And oh yeah, I did that like 10 times. I did that. You see, I just didn't think of these things as failures. In fact, I didn't even think of them as mistakes. I thought of them as just like sort of bumps in the road or something I would do differently next time. I never thought of it as a failure. And I think it's because I never had a plan B. I never expected to fail. I just thought, hey, I'm going to write this book, or I'm going to start this women's organization, or I'm going to start a group called Leadership Academy for Women. And I did it. I didn't talk to myself about, well, what if it doesn't work? And what are you going to do if it doesn't work? And what's your backup plan? And I think because I never thought of that, it just never occurred to me that it didn't work out. I have my women's organization, Pittsburgh Professional Women. And one time I decided to start up branches of other Pittsburgh professional women in other cities. And I tried to do that in another city, and it just did not work. I couldn't get anything to go. But I didn't think of that as a failure. I think I thought of it as a wrong turn, because as soon as I shut that organization down, I started Leadership Academy for Women, because I had now had the time to deal with Leadership Academy for Women. At that time in my life and business, Leadership Academy for Women was the most important thing that I had ever accomplished. And I could not have done that if I had kept with these little branch offices of Pittsburgh Professional Women. So I didn't think of that as a failure, but certainly it was not a success. But to me, it was a part of the path. So wise women do not have a plan B. Remember that. Number 8, wise women understand their value. This is something that I really see women struggle with. And if you're watching this with me right now, I want you to stand up straight and look yourself in the mirror and remind yourself that you are a woman of value, and what you know and what you've learned and what you bring to your company is valuable. And why would you not be paid top dollar for your value? Why would you ever settle for anything less? Sometimes I think when we are, whether you work for a company and you're asking for a pay raise, or if you are like me and you own your own business and you are asking for a fee for your services or a price for your products, I don't know why we would not want to be the absolute best and want the best, not only for ourselves, but for our clients. And what I want you to remember is when you are accepting money for your services, most of you, that money isn't just going to you. That is also supporting your family. And I know that you want the best for your family as well. Now, this is something that we really can learn from men. Men have no troubles with this. If an employer comes to a man and says, I'd like to offer you this position, and what we pay for this position is $75,000 a year. And the man knows that he can get $100,000 a year for that position, and that's what he was expecting. He is going to say, I don't think so. I can't live on $75,000. You want me to move to this big city and get a big house and commute to work and have all these expenses? It's just not possible. A guy will just say that's not possible. But when a woman is put in that same exact position, she's offered $25,000 less for a position, she will say to herself, well, I guess I can go without having my clothes dry cleaned. And I can probably take Susie out of dance class. And well, we won't send the kids to private school. We can make it work on public school. Yeah, I think I can make that work. She settles. She settles. A wise woman will understand her value. And I want you to begin to recognize your value by paying attention to the impact that you make. What is your work in the world worth? What is the impact that you make on the world worth to your company? What is the impact, the results that you get for your clients? What is that worth to them? Now, maybe you've mastered this. It took me a while to master this. And I'll give you a little hint. If people are saying to you, honey, you need to raise your prices, you're too cheap. It's time to up level a little bit and understand your value. If you haven't received a raise at work for a while, it's time to ask. Get some courage and ask. Okay, number 9, wise women delegate. Wise women understand that time is a precious, precious commodity. And you save time when you allow other people to take care of certain tasks. A wise woman also understands that there are, a lot of things that she does every single day that other people can do. A lot of things. But there's a few things that you do every day, or maybe less, that only you can do. The thing that only you can do is what is your biggest impact. That's what your biggest impact is. Doing a webinar like this, sharing my experience is something that only I can do. Now, writing an email newsletter or doing taxes or paying bills or fixing a website, other people can do that for me, but nobody else can do this for me. When I strategize with my clients one-on-one, there isn't anybody that I can delegate to. There's nobody else that thinks big for my clients the way that I do. But there certainly are people who can, clean the floor, work on the back end of a website, send cards in the mail, do some cleaning. There are things that I do that other people can do. And guess what? There are things that I don't like to do and that you don't like to do that other people love to do. For example, maybe it's your bookkeeping, maybe it's your taxes, or maybe you're the person that loves to do bookkeeping, or maybe you're the person that loves to do house cleaning or cooking. And you see, for the rest of us, when we insist on doing all those things ourselves because, we think it makes us noble or strong, right? We are keeping somebody else from shining in her own talent. So when it comes to delegation, I want you to save time by allowing others or maybe even assigning others to take care of tasks that you really shouldn't be doing. And that gives them the potential to shine and to move forward. When you have to do everything yourself, you're holding yourself back. So figure out what it is that only you can do and try to spend most of your time doing that. Number 10, wise women ask for help when they need it. A wise woman has probably learned, maybe the hard way, that accepting help doesn't mean that you're weak. It shows that you're wise. And sometimes we find ourselves in circumstances where we absolutely need the help of our sisters and our family members and our church community because we're going through a challenge. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you very often, but I pretty much know who you are. And I know that you're a woman who is always giving help to others. And when you're going through a crisis of your own, allow them to help you back. A wise woman asks for and accepts help when she needs it. Number 11, wise women understand that change is a part of life. They don't fear it and they don't avoid it. They may not like change. Sometimes we don't like change, do we? Sometimes we do not like it when our cosmetic company changes the color of our lipstick that we've been buying for years. And sometimes we don't like it when our bank changes the way that they do their checking or their savings. And we really don't like it when our companies change things around in order to make the company more profitable. And a lot of times that affects our families. But we understand that change is a part of life. So we don't always like it, but we're not afraid of it, and we're not going to avoid change because we understand that change is what propels us forward and makes us better. And a wise woman will gracefully show other women how to navigate the changes in her life. Now, if you're somebody who resists change and really doesn't like change and really likes to dig in when changes come, I'm going to bet that you've had some obstacles in your life that have made you face change. And let me tell you, that's going to keep on happening to you until you accept that change is a part of life. And so try not to resist it and try not to do it the hard way, because I want you to get to that point in your life where you can accept change and gracefully show the other women in the world how to also navigate the changes in their life. Because I'll tell you what, that definitely is something that we all have to deal with, and that's change. And my last tip for you tonight, wise women socialize with other wise women. They don't spend time with people who are not kind or supportive to them. They don't spend time with people who criticize their ideas and who judge them and try to make them feel like less so that that person can make them feel better, makes them feel better about themselves. Wise women don't hang around with people who put other people down. So a wise woman is going to seek like-minded women. Don't spend time with people who aren't kind to you, who aren't supportive to you. You need to find your own tribe, women who think like you. And the world is getting smaller than it ever has been before. And so if you feel like you are marching to the beat of a different drum, find other women like you. It's easier now than ever. Let me go back over my 12 strategies with you. And for those of you who are live with me tonight, I'm just loving looking at your chats in the chat box. And I promise after we stop the recording tonight, I'm going to go back and answer your ideas. And I love the aha moments that you're having. So number 1, wise women understand their purpose. Number 2, wise women ask for what they want. Number 3, wise women think big. Number 4, wise women do not deal with drama. Number 5, wise women learn to set boundaries. Number 6, wise women are not afraid to take action. Number 7, wise women don't have a plan B. Number 8, wise women understand their value. Number 9, wise women delegate. Number 10, circle this one. Some of you need this one. Wise women ask for help when they need it. Number 11, wise women understand that change is a part of life. And number 12, wise women socialize with other wise women. I want to encourage you to connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and let's stay connected, because there's nothing better than to have a tribe of wise women. I hope you find these tips helpful, and I hope to see you in person very, very soon. Thanks for joining me tonight.